Welcome to the Thursday edition of FSU Weather. I'm meteorologist Matthew Wisner, student meteorologist. And as we take a look outside at Doak Campbell Stadium, 92 degrees, very hot outside right now. Still a lot of sunshine, a couple of clouds blocking the sun a little bit, but overall we're looking really hot across the area. Quincy 95, Tallahassee 92, Perry 89, so relatively hot for this time of year, and it's not going to get that much cooler, to be honest. We're going to get into those upper 60s, but overall going to be a very hot week ahead. Now, we are watching Tropical Storm Gabrielle that's just starting to get a little bit of convection, but overall it's just a little bit of a hot mess right now. Just a lot of just convection sprayed out everywhere right now. Trying to get its act together, but we'll see what happens with it. Headlines, though, we're watching the tropics. Hot and dry weather are going to continue to stick around, and Thursday sports with a lot more coming up on FSU Weather.
Good evening, everyone. I'm student meteorologist Daniela Streety here with Matthew Wisnett, and again, another day, another blue sky day, another hot day. What's new?
I mean, it's just been the story this past week, to be honest. It's just been hot. It's been humid. Honestly, it's just, I want it to be over with. I'm not going to lie.
I feel like this has been the trend of September. It's just hot. I mean, it's pleasant. It's not like July, middle of July, August hot, at least completely. We're not going to have like heat index values at like 110 degrees, but again, we still have those low 90s, a little bit drier air, which is going to make it more, pleasant and be able to deal with it a little bit more, but we need a little bit of a change. I mean,
low 90s at the end of September with no rain. We just haven't had rain since the Alabama game, to be honest. It's been very dry, so it's too hot.
Gosh, it really has been since the Alabama game, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, just no
Storm
rain.
In the field, that was a great time, cooled us off, and then we haven't seen it since.
Haven't seen the rain since, and it's just been really hot. But how's the rest of the area looking across the Big Bend region, Danielle?
Yeah, so we're seeing lots of blue skies across Tallahassee, looking at downtown, again, seeing those low 90s across the area. A little bit of a breeze from the east, again, a lot of those sea breeze as well at this time of year. So again, enjoying a lot of what we have been enjoying, lots of blue skies and lots of sunshine. Again, those 90s are all across the board on the Big Bend in South Georgia. At the hot spot here, 95 in Quincy, a little bit cooler at the coast, 84 here in Apalachicola, and the rest of it, Perry getting a little more lucky, 89 has their temperatures right now, a little bit cooler, but mostly staying the same. Live radar, we are mostly all clear. You got some ground clutter here. We also have potential isolated shower or storm here in Dothan, as well as Albany a little bit farther north. But that is about as much action as we have gotten in about 3 weeks, I would say. So I mean, there's something trying to happen, but most of the area is remaining dry, and that's what it's going to look like for the rest of tonight. Again, as that sun goes down, those temperatures are going to drop into the low 80s and upper 70s as well. But as we wake up tomorrow morning, we're going to see a little bit of those upper 60s to low 70s as your morning lows. So it is beginning to warm up a little bit. Going into tomorrow, we have some clouds and pop-up showers possible, but very limited chances. I mean very limited when I emphasize that. So again, I wouldn't exactly say that we're going to get this much rain tomorrow, but a pop-up isolated shower across the region somewhere is possible. But I'm not going to say we're going to get a whole ton of rain whatsoever, and probably won't for at least another several days. Going into tonight, if you're going to stay out and about, again, those lower 70s to upper 60s is what we're going to be expected to see. A little bit of a breeze as well, but mostly clear skies, maybe some passing clouds as well. And that is going to be the trend across the whole region. Again, those upper 60s, lower 70s towards the coast. Pretty much what we've been seeing. It feels like Groundhog Day. I'm not going to lie to you. We're living the same day over and over and over, and it's seeming to not change a whole heck of a lot right now. If you're looking at the day planner going into tomorrow, again, starting your morning off in those 60s, upper 60s, and as we go into more pleasant temperatures in the 70s in the morning, but again, as that sun is starting to ramp up and heat the ground, not a lot of clouds to cover it. We're going to have a huge rise in temperature going into your afternoon and evening hours. Again, those rain chances are going to stay fairly slim. So if you're going out in Landis tomorrow or walking to class out and about on your Friday, definitely dress accordingly. It is going to be very warm tomorrow as it again, has been, and those rain chances, we're hoping we're going to get some showers into the beginning of the work week next week, and especially towards the end of next week as well. But again, those chances are still fairly slim. Again, 20%. That is not a whole lot of rain to be expected. And again, it can change in the next couple of days. So going into the next week, copy-paste forecast, those upper 60s in the morning. Again, seeing those lower 90s. Rain chances still extremely slim, maybe a chance of an isolated shower. So we're going to toss this over on to Matt, giving us a look at the tropics. We got something brewing.
Yeah, we're watching Tropical Storm Gabrielle trying to get its act together, but to be honest, it's really just kind of looking like a hot mess at the playground right now as this cumulus clouds, those cumulonimbus trying to just poof out into the atmosphere. But right now it's been pretty messed up. And you'll see this track, it's going to continue to move northwest over the next day or two and then start pulling itself closer to Bermuda by the end of the weekend. But overall, really going to stay out to sea, nothing to be worried about. The Euro model here, just a lot of moisture for the most part, going to continue to stay out to sea, but it'll slowly approach Bermuda from the southwest and eventually pull past it by the west. So might have some rip currents and some issues for Bermuda at the start of next week, but it'll slowly start making its way into the northern Atlantic. And by the end of next week, really just seeing it move off into the North Atlantic and become post-tropical. So going to be pretty much a mess for the most part, just a lot of rain overall. But we could use that here in Florida. Danielle, what does that look like for the rest of the state?
Across most of Florida, we're seeing a lot of that sunshine. I mean, take a look here at Tampa, 91 degrees, and it looks like artwork. Look at those beautiful cumulus clouds. I had to point that out because that is just fantastic views right there. Unfortunately, Miami is on the gloomier side still, as they can see in the background, those gray skies, staying in those mid-80s though, so that is keeping them a little bit cooler than what they usually would be this time of year. And that is really what we're looking at. Across Florida, hotspot is actually here in Tallahassee at 91 degrees, 87 in Pensacola, 88 in Tampa. And again, what is rainier parts of South Florida is keeping them in the lower 80s, even in the upper 70s, especially look at there at West Palm Beach. But again, the rain is what's keeping them cool. And they've been seeing a lot of rain within the last week or so. So I'm sure they are tired of it, but there is still more to come as we can take a look here at Southwest Florida and across the I-95 corridor, West Palm Beach, seeing some showers, but they're beginning to fizzle out. We see some heavier showers in South Florida and around the Everglades as well. So again, the more populated areas are going to not see as much rain as of now, but that can still ramp up going into tomorrow. Central Florida got some popcorn showers. I-4 seems pretty clear right now for travel. You just have a couple of showers here and there, so nothing to worry about as of now. And of course, going into this weekend, we're actually going to see a little bit of a clearing for much of the state, the exceptions of an isolated shower, central South Florida over here. But other than that, it's a more enjoyable weekend, definitely, than it was last weekend. And again, still watch out for those isolated showers and storms towards the I-95 corridor going into Miami. That's going to be something to keep an eye on for your weekend plans if you're planning to go down into that region this weekend. But tonight, we're going to see a lot of upper 60s and mid 70s as well, 80s even in Key West. We're going to see some cloud cover here on the Atlantic coast of Florida. But overall, we're staying pretty normal of what we've been seeing the last several days. So tonight, again, it's going to be pretty mild, and going into tomorrow, we're going to ramp right back up into those 90s. Cloud cover may keep a couple of those cooler, especially in central Florida and Miami. Again, those chances of storms may keep them on the 80s side, fortunate for them. So if you're planning to go to Miami this weekend, tomorrow is going to probably be the worst of it. But as you go into your weekend, those mid-80s are going to be what you're going to see. Those rain chances are also going to dwindle quite a bit, which will be nice to enjoy some sunshine finally for Miami. Fort Myers are going to see a clearing, but you're going to see a hot temperature seeing in the lower 90s, morning lows in the 70s. It's going to be much of a copy-paste forecast for them, but they may be able to start their work week with some isolated showers and thunderstorms. Going into Tampa, taking a look there, lots of the same story. Those low 70s and even low to mid 90s rain chances also remaining limited for them. Orlando as well, we're going to see copy-paste forecast for them. It seems like copy-paste forecast for Tallahassee, copy-paste forecast for Orlando as well, and the rest of Florida. Jacksonville, much of the same story, a little bit on the cooler side. Pensacola, it's going to stay a lot like we are here in Tallahassee, staying in those 70s and 90s during the day. But Matt, we're going to take a look into the southeast. Are they going to see a lot of drier weather like this, have some rain?
It looks like they're going to stay dry for the most part, as well as we can see Tampa, a lot of clouds out there. Nashville, very clear though for the most part. New Orleans and Birmingham have a couple of clouds as well, but for the most part staying relatively dry. So look across the southeast, Jackson 95 on the hotter side, Montgomery, a lot of sunshine in those 90s, Atlanta 88. As we pass through to the rest of the East Coast, we can see Jacksonville and Charleston in those mid-80s. So some areas enjoying a little bit more of those cooler temps, while a lot of areas on the western half, unfortunately, staying in those upper 90s. Radar-wise, we're seeing a couple of scattered storms in the southern parts of Georgia and Alabama, but for the most part, southeast pretty clear right now, unfortunately, because a lot of drought across the area. Out near Memphis, we're seeing some extreme drought, so lots of missed rainfall, unfortunately, for them, and even into Alabama, Atlanta, and even starting to get into us here in Tallahassee. We're starting to see some drought warnings and just some areas to watch, as it's just been a long time since we've gotten rainfall. And that's not going to really, that's going to continue for the most part, I should say. As we get into tomorrow, you can see relatively clear, a couple of spotty showers, but not enough to really break the drought trend for most of us. Even Atlanta might have some storms to the north, but for the most part, going to stay relatively dry. And then looking throughout for your Sunday, still relatively dry for a lot of areas, maybe a couple of showers out in Louisiana, but for the most part, staying on the drier side of things, unfortunately. Tonight's forecast, 67 Montgomery, Tallahassee 68, Orlando 73, Little Rock, a little bit more on the cloudier side, but lower 70s is the story. Some areas in the north might even get into those 60s like Nashville. So relatively cooler conditions, but still a very hot day ahead, unfortunately. Upper mid-90s for most of the area, Tallahassee 93, Montgomery 94, Jackson 93, Little Rock 86, a little bit of some showers to cool you off, but still probably not a lot. Probably not enough, unfortunately, to break the drought for a lot of this area. So still going to be very hot, very humid probably, and not a lot of rainfall. Birmingham, next 4 days, look at this, mid-90s for the start of your weekend. So going to be very hot, and just continuing by Monday, we're still in those low 90s. So it's still very hot outside and not a lot of rain to stop it. Upper 80s for Charlotte, but hey, by Sunday, if you're heading to Charlotte, it might be a little bit cooler in those mid-80s and even lower 60s in some areas. So you might even be able to get away with a jacket at night. New Orleans, though, is still sitting in those low 90s and not really much of a change. Might even warm up into those mid-70s for your lows, and by Monday could see your highs in those upper 80s. So a little bit cooler for the most part. Nashville, similar story, starting out in those mid-90s to start the weekend, but by the start of the work week, 84, whew, that's a temperature I'd love to have nowadays, but right now it's been pretty hot here in Tallahassee. Memphis will start heating up a little bit as well as we start the weekend, 92 with a little bit more cloud coverage, but by the time we get to the start of the work week next week, 86. So much cooler to start the work week for some areas, but still not a lot of rainfall to really combat a lot of these droughts that we're seeing across the area. But Danielle, what does the national look like? Is there some areas getting rain?
Yeah, so we're actually around the country finally getting to see some weather, not really severe, thankfully, but weather nonetheless. We're even seeing some temperatures finally starting to drop. We're seeing 59 here in Bismarck, 71 in Denver, still above average for this time of year for these areas, but some of the country is getting some relief. Meanwhile, the southeast is still seeing these pools of lava of red and orange, as we're seeing those upper 80s and even mid 90s in some areas as well. We can take a look here of what's going on. This is the action. We got some pop-up showers and storms in the southeast as we get towards the middle of the country, and then the Midwest. We're seeing a lot of showers and storms, even some severe. Let's zoom in here into Missouri, near outside of Kansas City. We're having a lot of severe thunderstorm watches in the orange boxes. Those are severe thunderstorm warnings, as we have a cold front pushing through. So ahead of this cold front, as we see around here, we have these severe showers and storms that are continuing to push to the east going into the next several hours. And we can also take a look here into Southern California, where they're seeing a lot of rain, some flash flood warnings, especially in those upper elevations of SoCal. We're seeing the remnants of Tropical Storm Mario pushing its way inland into SoCal, as well as Arizona and Las Vegas as well there in Nevada. So there's a lot of rain that they are seeing. Some places in SoCal and these regions have not seen rain since April. So imagine not even seeing a trace of rain, that really dry, ground. Finally seeing a lot of that rain. That's going to be definitely a contender for flash flood potential in these areas, which is what they are seeing. But thankfully, a lot of these showers and storms across the country are going to stay mostly non-severe, maybe an isolated strong to severe thunderstorm within Kansas and southern Nebraska, but not too much to be concerned about, just to get some rain. And that will be good for us, as a lot of the country is going to see some drought conditions hopefully being relieved. So again, we're seeing those non-severe threats. Again, that rain accumulation, we can see up to half an inch to an inch and a half of rain up north in the plains, as well as the southwest as well. And again, that's going to give some relief for that southern part of the country there, as they have a lot of drought conditions, and even for the Midwest as well, seeing a lot of those drought conditions possibly getting some relief. And above average temperatures are going to be the trend for much of the country. We will have a cool spot going to the next week or so across the plains, which is going to be great for them. But tonight, again, a lot of those mild temperatures seen in the 70s, maybe even some 50s across the area. And again, tomorrow goes above average temperatures will continue, as we see a lot of those 80s and 90s, 70s sitting in the West Coast. But now we're going to pass it back to Matthew for the greatest segment ever, the Sports Cast. What's we got going?
Oh, that's great to hear. We all love sports, and there's some really good games going on. We got our Thursday night football game at Buffalo, sitting pretty pleasant this time of year for Buffalo, sitting in those upper 60s to start the game. But by the time the game ends, we'll be in those lower 60s. But, I mean, I saw Tua get off the airplane in a jacket, and honestly, I don't know if you're going to need a jacket for that game. It's pretty pleasant overall. Kent State will be sitting in those just around the 90 mark. Low 90s to start the game, but by the time we get to the end of the game, that bar is not showing, because that'll be a win for FSU, but sitting probably in those upper 80s for the most part. Michigan versus Nebraska. Big win for possibly Nebraska if they can pull off a ranked win versus Michigan. We'll see those mid-70s might even heat up just a little bit in those later afternoon hours before dropping into those lower 70s by the end of the game time. Auburn versus Oklahoma, a bit of a sneaky game for the most part for both these teams. Ranked win potential, starting out with a little bit of an overcast before getting into maybe those sitting in those mid-80s for the most part. Probably got to stay just around that for most of the game. Florida, needing that win massive as they're starting out 1-2 versus Miami, number 4 Miami. Got to see temperatures sitting in those low 80s for most of the game with a little bit of cloud coverage, but should be pleasant weather, unlike last week when they had USF. Now, as we turn our attention to the NFL, starting out in those mid-80s for Tampa Bay, but then we get into those low 90s in the middle of the game, so going to be a hot affair as they play the Jets. Tampa Bay missing a couple of starting offensive linemen, so that heat might really get to some of the backups, but we'll see how that plays out. Now, Jacksonville versus the Texans, both teams needing a win, and it's going to be a hot game as well, as we're going to see 86 for most of it, and as you leave the game, it'll be in those upper 80s for the most part, so still a warmer day overall. Now, Broncos and Chargers, a really big slate. Chargers have the chance to go 3-0 to start the year, as well as 3-0 in the division. That'd be a huge jump out for them. They'll be sitting in the mid-70s in Inglewood, California, as they'll be at SoFi Stadium. Broncos trying to get back on track, being 2-1, so going to be a very good game with lots of great sports going on. But Daniela, if you're not a sports fan and you're trying to enjoy the sunny weather, what else can you do around town?
You know, that's a great question, because I also would be enjoying sports. But if you don't want to enjoy sports and take a break from sports, there's plenty to do. I mean, Sportsplex probably will be doing sports. But around EOES, if you're studying or tanning at the lakefront at Lake Bradford or hanging around Doak Campbell, again, very great conditions, especially for tonight and going into our weekend. St. George Island, if you want to take a trip to SGI this weekend, it's going to be beautiful skies, mostly clear in the mid-80s, possibly even hitting the low 90s this weekend. But again, you're going to get that southern sea breeze hitting you this weekend. And it might even be a good day to go to Blue Parrot and go to Aunt Ebby's Ice Cream. That is my favorite tradition to do when I go to St. George Island. You're going to hang out at Tom Brown, maybe even do some pickleball, disc golf, anything that it has to offer. Tom Brown has lots to offer this weekend, as always. But we're going to see, again, those 90s, mostly clear skies, especially going to the evening hours if you want to go when the sun is not barreling down on you. That'd be good times to do that. We'll see some mid-80s, maybe even upper 70s if you stay extra late out at the park. If you're planning to go out, again, those conditions are going to stay pretty good. Sitting in those 80s and upper 70s, maybe some passing clouds tonight, but no rainy weather or severe weather to worry about. So Wear what you will tonight. It's just going to be warm, so make sure to dress accordingly for that. You're going to plan to walk your furry friend tomorrow morning. Definitely the earlier the better. 60s, upper 60s in the morning as the sun is rising. But again, as that sun is going to get out, that ground is going to heat up, and we're going to see those temperatures rise fairly quickly, especially since we don't have a ton of cloud cover. So expect some mid-70s around 9 a.m. And of course, as we get towards mid-morning, midday, we're going to get to see those mid to upper 80s as well. But again, what every Floridian loves to do, what every college student probably loves to do, sit by the pool. And if you have a break from class tomorrow or any time this weekend, it is perfect conditions to go. You're going to see those upper 80s and 90s going into tomorrow. Not a lot of rain to be expected, not a lot of clouds either, which would be great. Just make sure to wear some sunscreen and don't get too toasted out there, guys. Again, for the beach, same thing. Make sure to hydrate, get that sunscreen. It's going to be warm, but it will be a little bit breezy. Expect, again, those sunny skies and that moderate rip current risk if you're going to go out into the water and swim. Just be wary of that. But again, no delays at Tallahassee International. Expect great conditions. And across the country, we are seeing no delays right now across our major airports, which is a very good sign right now. Again, this weekend, see some sunny skies, limited rain chances. And again, copy-paste forecast, seeing those upper 60s and those low to mid 90s. So we're seeing a lot of the same weather like we have been seeing. And it is, like I said earlier, Groundhog Day, it seems.
Yeah, it's been really hot outside, and honestly, the fact that it's not going to change anytime soon is just a real bummer. Another mid-afternoon kick for FSU football, and it's going to be a scorcher, to say the least.
It's so funny because, like, to study, like, listen to relaxing music, and I think I told you this, but I literally had, like, an autumn background on my TV playing on YouTube because I want fall that badly.
Oh, I want it so bad. And as a reminder, if you're going to the football game, please hydrate. I saw some people last game dealing with heat exhaustion or just being really tired. Make sure to drink lots of water. It's going to be a hot game. It's sunny. There's not a lot of clouds, unfortunately, so it gets hot very fast.
Don't do what I did and apply sunscreen only once. Also, make sure to rub in your sunscreen because I had a nice red stripe down my arm, and it was not fun. But, you know, looking like the American flag, I guess it was patriotic.
Hey, that's one way to do it, you know. Go Knowles, you got the red stripe, got the little
exactly,
spear
little
on your
garter
arm.
stripe.
Exactly.
Hey, so make sure to follow us on X at FSU Weather.
Don't forget to follow us on at Facebook at FSU Weather.
And also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FSU Weather.
Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe at FSU Weather as well.
And don't forget, we're also on TikTok at FSU Weather, so give it a follow. And here is your last look at the 7-day forecast. Have a good night, everyone.